How's everybody doing? Something's going on this planet, and most people don't want to talk about it. Most people are afraid to talk about it. The churches sort of ignore it. The New Agers embrace it. The guys at the ancient astronaut theorists are totally on board with it. The guys living in Sedona, take me, take me. Something's happening, and it's not going away. And the church, and I love audiences like this, for the most part, you know, we're all brothers and sisters in the Lord, saved by grace, saved wretches like us. I am a wretch, thank you. I raise my hand willingly. Just wretch me, baby. But something is coming, and it's not good. Something is here. Something is manifesting. And it's manifesting globally, and it's not going away. The phenomena, as I say over and over and over again, is real, burgeoning, and not going away. What is it going to take? And what's great about it, you know, go back 20 years and no one talked about this stuff. If you walk into a church and go, what do you think about UFOs? We better get them down to the deliverance ministry right now. Follow me, right? No one talked about this stuff. You know, the pastor kind of takes that step back kind of deal. No one talked about it. Now it's starting to happen. We get lots of emails, some from pastors, a lot from just Christians wondering what's going on. I saw something, I can't explain it. You're the only person I can talk to because everybody else thinks I'm nuts. We hear that over and over and over again. And what I love about some of these conferences is, this happened in Colorado this year. This husband and wife, they've been married about 10 years, okay? They're in front of me at the table, and this wife starts this story about her abduction. And the husband's like this. He'd never heard it. But she feels safe enough because there's no judgment. I'm just going, yeah, it's classic. Sure. Yeah, when did this happen? It's not happening again? Okay, good, you're safe. Great. He's like, whoa, he had no idea. So something is going on. Something is going on. And we're told in Scripture that the fallen one, Satan, will come with all signs and lying wonders. Is this thing working? My laptop, I just hit the first slide. And my laptop is not working. I see someone standing there. I do not know who that man is. Hello? Okay, we're having some trouble. Little technical difficulty. Americans are not expected to do well in this event. Houston, we have a problem. We're not getting anything. Why is that? I'm going to take it out and put it back in again. Let's see what happens. Okay, taking it out, putting it back in. Anything? Now there's two of us, look. One just disappeared, the great Fanzini. Poof. You got to be quick on your feet, folks. Trust me, a dead audience says, let's give him a hand. Okay. Let's all go home. That's just joking. So something is happening, and it's not going away. And look, we were just at the UFO convention, UFO Congress in Phoenix last weekend, where I caught a nasty cold, but that's another story. So if I pop Fisher Friends in my mouth here and talk like this, like Daffy Duck, you know what I'm doing. But we were in Phoenix, and there's about 1,400 people there. And a lot of these people are really hardcore, and I mean hardcore. They have been experiencers since they were 5 years old. And there's something called the Stockholm Syndrome. We're on slide 1, by the way, for those who are keeping time. We're never going to get out of here, I just know it. I've heard about this before. He just goes on and on and on. Rabbit trails, that's what they are. It's horrible. Let's leave now. So we're in Phoenix, and all these people, and I'm at the table with this one woman who's been abducted. She was 5 years old, and she had a picture of an entity which she took, which could have come out of National Geographic. That's how clear it was. And, you know, Richard, my business partner and co-producer of Watchers, were going, oh my gosh, we'd never seen anything even remotely like it. I mean, it's just, the thing's just standing there. You see from here up. And she goes, this is my friend. And we're just going, oh my gosh. And you can't, it takes a lot of time with these people. Because, you know, you can talk about Jesus. Jesus will help you if you just say his name. And they look at you like you're crazy. because they've tried everything since they were 5 years old, and they can't get out. And now it's the Stockholm Syndrome basically is that the person who's being captured begins to identify with his captors. It's called the Stockholm Syndrome. And it happened in the 20th century when people were held hostage, and pretty soon some of these people began to empathize with their captors. And this is exactly what we see, to the point where the experiencers I talk to actually look forward to being abducted 2 or 3 times a week. They're called frequent flyers. They go right up through the ceiling. I know, there's a lot of weird gallows humor in the UFO community that way. What was cool is we got to go in. I wasn't allowed to speak, but we got the award. We got Best Film, and we got People's Choice, which is really cool. And a lot of people watched the film, and then people came up and talked, because we did it in a non-religious way. We weren't going, and Jesus says, if you come to me now and say the magical words. We didn't do that. We just kind of lay it out really easily for people to get and assimilate. And you know what? People start listening to it. Well, okay, far out. But it takes time. And so many of these people have been just blasted in the church. They've been massacred by the church. And so they're like, you know, I like Jesus, but save me from his followers type of thing. So we have to be careful. And we never use Christianese in the Watchers. So I'm on slide 1, so let's move on. In 1952, UFOs over the Capitol. We show this actually as a clip in Watchers 7, which is on YouTube. That's where we pulled it from. But there's a whole flotilla going by you know, it's like, what is this? No one cares. Hey, don't worry about it. It's just, you know, a flock of birds caught up in the weather balloon reflecting the planet Venus. That's what it is. Don't worry about it. You didn't see nothing. Go back to work. And it's like, you know, look, we're all caught up in this deal in the United States of America, where it's like, you know, we're overworked. We pay all these taxes. We do all this stuff just to survive. Who's got time to even think about any of this stuff for the most part, right? I mean, I remember, you know, I'm 63, so my kids are, excuse me, I wish I had a mute button. Hold on, let me cough one more time. He made it, I drink it. Oh. You know, my kids are gone, and so I have time to, not leisure time, but I have time. I don't have to, you know, come home and be with the kids and the homework and the basketball games and all the other stuff, right? I don't have to do that anymore. We don't have grandkids, so I really don't have to do that anymore. Not yet, anyway. So I'm free, but most of us, you know, a lot of us anyway, are like, we're just in this train that's got no brakeman, and it's just full speed ahead. Who's got time? You know, UFOs, please. Got the mortgage to pay, you know. My car needs a new transmission. Leave me alone. And yet we're told in the guidebook of the supernatural, i.e. the Bible, that this fallen angel will come with all signs and lying wonders. So we have 3 choices. Choice number 1, Paul's making this stuff up because he's got nothing else better to do. That's choice number 1. Choice number 2, it is been mistranslated over the thousands of years. We can't trust anything in the Bible because all these guys don't know how to translate, and it really doesn't say that. Or choice number 3, it says what it means what it says, and says what it means. It's just Chuck Missler likes to say. And I believe, of course, number 3, something is happening here. It's there. It's a warning. That verse is pregnant with meaning. That verse should just, when we hit it, we should go, whoa. Satan comes with all signs of lying wonders, mystery of iniquity. Right? The secret of lawlessness is working for thousands of years. And doing what? He's trying to ensnare as many people as he possibly can. That's the end game. He's also trying to make man in his own image, in my opinion. We'll get into that tomorrow. And what's interesting is, you know, they said it in the flyer. I was down in Peru, and Gon's we got our signals crossed, and they said cosmic chess match. Look, it is a cosmic chess match. But it's more UFO type stuff with the cosmic chess match. But it is. Basically, what that means is there are 2 sides fighting here. You just heard Doug talking about Armageddon and when Jesus comes back and all that. But there's 2 sides that are fighting. And in my opinion, they have been fighting literally for millennia. It has gone on and on and on. And there's protocols to the war which we don't see, which we don't understand, which are not given to us in full. For instance, we're still on slide number 1. I knew this was going to happen. I told you. We should have never come. I can't believe it. So anyway, where was I? So Daniel Here's something that when I first read it, I went, what? Well, I don't like that scripture. What the heck's that doing here? I don't like that, Lord. Wait, 21 days before the angel comes back? What if I'm about to hit a Mack truck? 21 days, L.A. That's what it was. What's going on? The angel tells Daniel when he shows up. Daniel prays, 21 days later, the angel shows up, right? Hi, Dad, how you doing? Boom! Daniel does a face plant. And when you read the text, it's literally, and I fell on my face. That is a face plant. And people say the Bible has no humor. Come on! I mean, Daniel just did a face plant. What do you want? Dan, baby, get up. So, they go over and they kind of, the angel's doing some whatever he's doing. Dan, it's okay. I love you, baby. Come on up. Let's go, Dan. Then he says, and I got up on all fours like a dog. I mean, when these guys show up, I love all these new ages. Oh, my angel just said this. Baloney. It wasn't your angel, trust me. Because if it's a real angel, you do a face plant. Everybody. Mary does the same thing. It's like, everybody freaks. Everybody freaks. And I'll tell you one little story, an apocryphal story. When I was a brand new Christian 34 years ago, right, I want to see an angel, Lord. I'm ready to see an angel. I want to see one. I can't wait. I would pray like, Father, let me see an angel. I want to see an angel. Like a little kid, Daddy, 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 can I, poke, poke, poke. You know what I mean? Little 3-year-old kid, that's right here, okay? So I want to see this angel, and I'm running around every day. Lord, let me see that. I want to see an angel. I want to see an angel. That whole deal, right? And I used to run a lot. Don't do a lot of running no more. Yes, sir, the boy has too much pork in his belly. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, I'm on this run, and it's like about 5 o'clock, and I'm up in the chaparral in the Santa Monica Mountains. There's nobody around. I'm on this trail. I'm running along like this, and I just feel the Holy Spirit go, if you look to your left, you will see an angel. And I went, ah! And I covered my face like this, because I didn't want to look. I covered my face, and I ran as fast as I could down the trail. I was terrified. Now, I don't know what was there. All I know is I felt that little prompt. We know his voice, right? I felt that little prompt. Okay, smart Alec, you've been wanting to see an angel. Now look over there. I didn't look. I have no idea what. But people always go, God, L.A., why didn't you just go look? Because I was scared out of my mind. That's why. I was terrified, literally terrified. So the bottom line is, the angel shows up 21 days later. Protocol. Why does it take him 21 days to show up? Because he has to fight the Prince of Persia. Wait a minute. What's the Prince of Persia doing there? Why can't the angel just tiptoe around the Prince of Persia? Don't move. I'm just going to go past right over here. Doesn't do that. He's got to go back and get reinforcements. What do they fight with? The Bible doesn't tell us. Thumb wrestling? 2 out of 3, pal. Let's go. They don't do that. We don't know. Flaming swords, like all these Christian artists, dun-da-da, it's like, I don't know. We have no idea, if we're intellectually honest, how these guys fight, but they fight. There's a battle. And then he's allowed in. And then he goes, I got to go back now, and now it's a prophetic timeline. He's up 200 years in the future, and I got to go battle the Prince of Greece. What? It's bizarre. It's bizarre. And we're stuck in this space-time continuum on planet Earth, doom, do-do-do-do-do-do. Meanwhile, this whole cosmic chess match is raging around us, literally. I'll tell you something. I started doing this about 7 years ago, full-time. The Lord took me out of a church and planted me into doing what I'm doing now. And I felt like it's been my whole life, gathering to this point, and it's like, go. Firing on all 8 cylinders type of deal. And 7 years ago, I started the blog in 2008, so it's like 6 years ago. But 7 years ago, when I was, doing this stuff, there were no nuclear Iran. There were no 7.0 earthquakes that were the normal. Fukushima hadn't happened yet. There were no fish and animal die-offs happening on a global level. The weird weather patterns were not happening. The big California drought, which has broken all records, wasn't there. The Arab Spring had not happened. And on and on and on and on. $17 trillion in debt wasn't there. 53 million aborted babies. The number wasn't that point, but it was climbing to that point. And we could have a whole program on the days of chaos. We have turned a corner. And like when you boil a frog, we've all heard the story, just cut to the chase, right? The frog doesn't know because the water's heating up slowly. That's where the church is at. Oh, it's okay. It's all normal. Praise the Lord. Palm Sunday. Here's your palm. Happy Palm Sunday. Jesus loves you. Fukushima. I mean, this is what we're up against. Did you a couple of the, yesterday? Fukushima, 200, what was it, 20,000, no, 200,000 or 100, with some ridiculous amount of water, radioactive water, escaped Fukushima today. But it never reached the Pacific. We're going to believe these guys who lied and lie habitually to us? Come on. He's still on slide number 1. I'm leaving right now. I've had it. So, I mean, that just gives you an idea of what's happening. And it's really, it does my heart soars like an eagle when I hear at Calvary Chapel and I realize that my white brother, no, just joking. Just channeling my inner Native American there. My heart does soar like an eagle when I realize that more and more people are awakening. More and more people are going, what's going on? It's not the status quo. More pastors are, we spoke up at Reno last year, I think it was like in November or something. And what was amazing was it was a Friday night, and there were 12 pastors from different churches and 10 assistant pastors in the audience. And many of them came back Saturday, and I was just overwhelmed. You know, you sure you got the right guy here, Lord? I mean, and they're like, some of them were just scribbling notes. Why? Because they want to know what's going on. And I believe the Bible's got the answers, and I believe that the Lord's raised up a bunch of us to go out and warn His people, and people that aren't His people yet, but may become His people in the future, as to what's going on. It is a cosmic chess match. Something is happening, and I want to show you something here. This is Paul Hellyer. Okay, let me go back. This is Paul Hellyer. This is the UFO Congress, which was held in April of 2013 this year. Paul Hellyer has the distinction of being the former Secretary of Defense for the Canadian government. This isn't some guy with a 4th grade education. Highly educated man, was in the halls of power, you know, rose up through the ranks, became Secretary of Defense of the Canadian government. Now he's at this UFO, it's called the Disclosure Project, and he's talking about UFOs. We have this clip in Watcher 7. Basically, he says this: UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. Now, you can't state it any more succinctly and in your face than that. Let's watch the clip. Here he goes. Paul Hellyer.
Although as Minister of National Defense, I have sighting reports of UFOs. I was too busy to be concerned about them at the time because I was trying to unify the Army, Navy, and Air Force into a single Canadian Defense Force. And that itself was a kind of battle to the finish. So this was not high on my agenda. But about 10 years ago, I started getting interested due to a young man from Ottawa sending me material on the subject. I told him I was too busy to read it, but he had confidence that someday I would. It took me a while to get around to reading it, but I took it for my summer reading in 2005 and was really impressed with what was contained in it. And what I thought to myself is there are huge issues here, huge issues. And the American people and the people of the world have a right to know what's going on.
Hear that? American people and the people of the world have a right to know what's going on. And we do. We have a right to know. You know, we're breathing, all breathing the same air.
Because they're part of it. It's not just an isolated thing. I accept the invitation of Victor Vigiani, who's over here somewhere, and his cohort Mike Bird to speak to a symposium at the University of Toronto. And I said, UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. That gave me the dubious distinction of being the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 group of countries to say so unequivocally.
And it goes on, and what's interesting about this, you remember, here's this guy, and he's coming out and he's letting everyone know that the phenomenon is real. And you can't say it any more in your face than that, you know. I mean, he's not some crazy guy, you know, I saw a UFO. It's not that at all. He's saying UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. It's just a very sober, non-emotional, analytical, intellectual statement because he knows it's true. He knows it's true. He's not being paid to do it, and there's all these other people, ex-congressmen and Air Force people and people that have been involved on the outskirts, and they basically have touched the phenomena, seen the phenomena, and they're there at this hearing talking about the reality of the phenomena. Now I'm going to show you another clip, and watch this. This is like a news clip, and watch the way, in this country, if they talk about UFOs at all, it's always tongue-in-cheek for the most part. They never address it seriously. In Mexico, and Jaime Maussan, who's got a 3-hour weekly television program, and he gets footage from all over the world, and some of the footage we actually were able to use in Watcher 7. The montage in the beginning is all from Jaime Maussan, at least most of it is. They treat the subject very, very seriously. What's interesting, and this is just my own observation, that I think you can make a case, and I'm painting with a very broad brush here, that the evangelical church is the one thing that stands in the way of full manifestation in this country. Just saying. Because in South America, it's basically Catholicism. And there's not a lot of born-again, spirit-filled people running around. There just isn't. I just came back from 3 weeks in Peru. And what I don't have time to get into this, but real quickly, they have this mix of Catholicism and paganism, which they blend together. And that's what it is. It has nothing to do with the Jesus that you and I know. They don't know him personally. Now there's, again, I'm painting the very broad brush. There are pockets of believers down there, people who know the truth, but for the most part, they don't. In this country, anytime they talk about UFOs, it's always kind of tongue-in-cheek. Well, Bob, did you see that the real X-Files, what may be the real X-Files last night over Lake Michigan? And that's right, Ted, and we're going to show you that clip right now. But first, and that's how they play it. And remember, these guys are all reading from a teleprompter. Do you realize that? Have you ever been to a news, if you have a chance, go sometime. It's amazing. They just sit there, and the guy's sitting there like this. There's 2 teleprompters right in front of him, and he's just reading from a teleprompter. That's all he's doing. He's not making the news. He's not researching the news. He's not vetting. He or she is not vetting the news. All they are doing is reading from a teleprompter. And in that teleprompter, there's a prompt, jovial, serious, whatever. There's little hints like that. They go over this stuff in the production. So, jovial, kind of treat it lightly. Well, those UFOs are back again, and this time they're not little green men. That's what we get in this country. Watch this.
Ever look up at lights in the sky and wonder what the heck is that? You're not alone. Maybe we're not alone. UFO sightings in Canada doubled last year to just under 2,000 reports. Stephen Petticombe has the details from one place where something strange was spotted.
The 2012 UFO survey done out of Winnipeg, Manitoba has a surprising result. There was more sightings than ever before in the history of the...
Watch this. Watch the way she closes the piece.
Last year to just under 2,000 reports. Stephen Petticombe has the details from one place where something strange was spotted.
Where something quite strange was spotted. Something quite strange. Wonder what it was. This is how the phenomenon is treated. So let's see what this guy has to say.
The 2012 UFO survey done out of Winnipeg, Manitoba has a surprising result. There was more sightings than ever before in the history of the survey. There were 1,981 UFO sightings reported in the country last year, about 5 a day. That's more than twice the number of reports in 2011.
Okay, stop. 5 a day. 5 a day. Let's say out of 30 days in a month average, right? Let's say all those reports except for one is real. Now what do we do? See what I'm saying? How many people knew those stats? That's just in Canada. Guess what the stats are in the United States right now? In April, we were filming for Watcher 7. We went back and interviewed some people down in New Jersey. Excuse me. And between these 2 reports, they were getting, UFO centers, they were getting about 500 a month. Okay, 500 sightings a month. Well, from April to October, it kicked up to 1,000 a month. From October to the first of the year, it's now 2,000 a month. Okay, so something's going on. They are chomping at the bit. Trust me, they are. And when you're at a UFO convention or when you're watching Ancient Aliens, this stuff is being ramrodded down the church's throat. And unless we understand what it is we're looking at and have an answer in season to give to the people who are trying to tell us that this is, they're Pleiadians from Zeta Reticula or whatever, we're losing, we've already sort of lost the argument. They dominate the conversation. There's only a few of us that are out here actually talking about it and trying to warn the church and others of what's coming.
When there was 986. Now, the number of cases in 2012 completely eclipses all previous records for the highest.
That's a really cool one. Look at that.
Reports in 1 year.
Now, see, when you see that, what are you going to do? Most people go, oh, wow, look at that, man. Yo, what is that? Right? You get sucked in. You can't do that. That's what they want. They want you to go, wow. And I've done that, and you can't do that. There's a saying, rebuke first and ask questions later. When you see something like that, thank you very much. When you see something like that and you're not sure what it is, we rebuke it first. We don't have time to test the spirits because you can't go, hey, did Jesus come in the flesh? Can't do that. So we rebuke first, and then we ask questions after the fact. Did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. What did you see? That type of thing. Let's move on.
This was 1,004 in 2008.
Turns out that it was just a matter of that all the sources seem to reply that they had an increase in the number of UFO reports. So it's something across the board. People in Canada were actually looking up into the sky more often than in the previous year.
Ontario had more than 40% of sightings, but that's mainly because their population is so large. In 2012, about 7.5% of all UFO reports were judged to be unexplained. The percentage dropped from 11% the year before.
Look at this one.
Typical UFO sighting lasted about 15 minutes, and there were all kinds of shapes, sizes, and lights seen in the air, many of which could be explained. But again, 7.5% couldn't be. Right here on this very hill, about an hour outside of Halifax in January, 2 young people were sledding. They heard a strange sound in the sky, they looked up, and they saw a big orb with some flashing lights. They say it was a UFO. That UFO will be included in next year's survey. Stephen Puttycombe, CBC News, Lake Charlotte.
So what this is called, in my opinion, soft disclosure. What this does is it allows the American people to look at it in a very safe environment, your living room, while you're eating dinner or getting, after dinner or whatever. So you're sitting there, oh, UFO stuff, right, or whatever. Well, that's pretty cool. Wonder what that is. It's soft disclosure. So it's like you're being fed the information. Oh, only 7.5% are real that they can't explain. Oh, well, that's not so bad. Most of them they can explain. Most of them, I got nothing to worry about. I love that. What about the 7.5%, even if those figures are accurate? What about if it's just 2%? If it's just 1%, something is going on, and we need to understand what it is. We jump to Stephen Greer. We go back now to the April convention, the UFO Disclosure Convention. Watch what Stephen Greer says. It's really interesting. And he released a movie called Sirius, and again, I've watched it. They are, when I say dominating the conversation, I mean that. They are dominating the conversation. They are steering the conversation. They are trying to tell us that extraterrestrials seeded all life on this planet, that extraterrestrials started the world's civilizations, genetically manipulated early man. There is no God, the God of the Bible. I've watched Stephen Greer just light up and just go, yeah, when they come, all religions will crumble, and he's right, they will, for the most part. For the most part. Unless we know what we're looking at a priori before the event happens, we will be so easily deceived. We will look at the phenomena and just go, wow, maybe Jesus was from the Pleiades. That kind of makes sense, It's like, and one thing I have warned, they will come bearing gifts. One of these gifts will be free energy. I stated that in 2012, and here it is in 2013, Stephen Greer echoing, I'm not a prophet, but it's sort of a prophecy. That's what I believe it will do, and Greer's telling us that when they show up, they'll give us the energy that pilots the crafts, and it'll change everything. Look, folks, the world is headed towards something. We're told by Yeshua, by Jesus, the signs to look for, the wars and rumors of wars are happening. Famines and pestilence, it's happening. Earthquakes in diverse places, my gosh, it's happening. Troublesome times. Hello, look around. I'm not a prophet of doom, but then when he says, when you see those things, do what? Build a bunker and hide? No, he says, look up. It's actually words of encouragement. Look up because I'm coming back. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's basically what he's saying. So watch what Stephen Greer says here. And Stephen Greer is what I would consider a nice guy. I've never met him, but he's on the other side of the aisle. He firmly believes that there is a truth embargo happening by the American government. They are not coming clean about the extraterrestrial presence. Greer believes, like I do, and many others in the field, that the American government has known about the ET presence since around World War II, perhaps even before that. Certainly even Nazis had their own Roswell, and I could get off on that, but I won't. Watch this clip. Citizens hearing on disclosure, Dr. Stephen Greer.
And why are we still on oil? I think we're on oil because, and coal and nuclear power, because there has been an active, longitudinal, long-term suppression of really advanced sciences and technologies. There are 5,135 patents that have been seized under the National Security Act. And I think that this has created both a geopolitical emergency and a geophysical emergency. Whether you believe in global warming or not, you cannot have 7 billion people burning oil and gas and coal indefinitely. Whereas there are advanced technologies dealing with the physics of zero-point energy, so that every home and car would have a generator pulling energy out of the fabric of space-time.
I mean, it's astounding. He's talking about zero-point energy, pulling energy out of the space-time continuum, out of the fabric of space-time. We don't have that yet, but they do, apparently. So that's what he's talking about. Listen where he goes.
And you would never have to burn another drop of oil.
Why are we not there? Why are we doing it?
Because there has been active suppression of this information. As Mr. Sheehan reported, there are people on my team who have been threatened. There is a man working on one of these devices for my group. We provided some grant funding, and about two to 3 years ago, a former CIA director, who I don't want to talk about, with a group of people went down there and threatened him and his wife if he didn't stop. So this is a man who's attached to IT&T and does contract work for the CIA. The part of the technology that deals with energy generation should come out and has also been suppressed for reasons mainly of macroeconomic stability, because, as you know, part of the national security discussion has always been these would be highly disruptive technologies, to which I say, well, good. You want to be disrupted now or later when we go through a terminus with the environment melting down around us. We have got to make these hard decisions. In the French government, we've had discussions about this. They know that some of these objects are of extraterrestrial origin.
Some of these objects were of extraterrestrial origin. See the way they're just laying it out? Some of these objects, very, not emotional, just very analytical, very intellectual, scientific. Some of these objects are extraterrestrial. Then he'll say, some of them are ours, and they are. Let's see what he says.
You know that some of them are man-made, and the Lockheed Skunk Works, and some of my witnesses and sources work in the famous Skunk Works. And I will tell you that Ben Rich, who headed up the Lockheed Skunk Works, said before he died, and we have a witness to this comment, that we, quote, already have the technologies to take ET home. In other words, we already have at the Skunk Works interstellar capable technologies.
So that's Mr. Greer. This is Edgar Mitchell. After my space flight, I was contacted by descendants of the original Roswell observers, including the person who delivered the child-side coffins to the Air Force to contain alien bodies. Another was one of the children of the deputy sheriff who was patrolling traffic around the site. There was also a military officer who was a friend of the family's, not involved in that particular operation, but who did share office space there. They all seem credible with their stories that the bodies found were alien. And it's hysterical how our government changes the story every, decade or whatever. And, Roswell, case closed. They were crash dummies. And then you dig a little bit into the archives and you find out that the crash dummies that they supposedly saw weren't employed until 1952. And Roswell happens in what, 47? So it's like we've got a 5-year discrepancy there. So unless the Army or Navy or whatever has a time machine, that's not going to work. They wouldn't use crash test dummies, so what did they find there? And of course, this is late David Flynn, for those of you who don't know this, and this is all him, David's work, incredible when you miss him. According to the book of Enoch, the 200 watcher angels descended in the days of Jared on Mount Hermon. That exit sign is Mount Hermon. And by the way, and on the trail with the Nephilim too, which I'll show you tomorrow. There's a line which goes from New Hampshire, Stonehenge in New Hampshire, and travels completely across the Atlantic, bisects the Stonehenge in England, continues and winds up in Beirut, which is the home of the Phoenicians, which is the home of the Canaanites, which are the descendants of the Nephilim tribes, okay? But when you extend the line, which is something we didn't do in On Trail 1, when you extend the line, it gets really cool because 47.5 miles to Baalbek in the north, 47.5 miles to Gilgal Raphaim in the south. Everything is very deliberate. So Flynn knew all this stuff. And the 200 Watcher Angels descended in the days of Jared on Mount Hermon. And Flynn, it's just, this is his work. He's the one who discovered it. We've all talked about it, and I always, buy his book. The guy was amazing. Anyway, so when you go to if you were to take on the same latitude and you were to go 180 degrees around, you would wind up at Roswell, New Mexico, way over there. And that's deliberate. And of course, Roswell, New Mexico is where the UFO, flying saucer, crashed. It was very, very deliberate. And the more we get into this stuff, we realize that the fallen ones are very much into energy grids. So are the New Agers, but the fallen, where do they get it from? The energy grids, the ley lines, all this stuff means a lot to them. So let's move on. Stephen Bassett, who we actually interviewed for Watcher 7, and he was the one who funded and came up with the whole disclosure conference that you saw. Two people, Hellier and, of course, Stephen Greer, were at the podium, or at the desk, at the microphone, I should say, discussing the whole UFO phenomena. Bassett was the guy that was doing it. And I was just on a panel with him. We showed Watcher 7. He has a monthly meeting, and we went in and showed Watcher 7 to about 200 people. And they brought up Stephen Bassett, excuse me, I'm sorry, an experiencer who's a frequent flyer, Richard Shaw, my business partner, co-producer, and myself. And it's sort of towards the end of the evening, about a half an hour into the questions, and the questions went on for like well over an hour. And it was sort of Stephen and I were fencing, because his paradigm is E.T. is here, and my paradigm is, no, we're not looking at E.T. These are interdimensional beings that lie all the time. They are the remnants of the fallen angel. It's the coming great deception. It's talked about it. It's a spiritual dimension to this thing. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And I really got to hurry up because I'll never get done. But you guys don't care, right? That's what I figured. It's Bedtime Stories with L.A. Marzulli. Okay, kids. And then the mean alien came in, but we rebuke it in the name of Jesus, and it went away. All right. Stephen Bassett, Exopoliticus, the art or science of government as concerned with creating and maintaining policy toward extraterrestrial-related phenomena and extraterrestrial beings. Exopolitical actions, practices, or policies. The exopolitical opinions or sympathies of a person. The total complex of relations between humans and non-human intelligent beings. Look, this guy is on board. And he's just one of I don't know how many. I would venture to say millions at this point, which look at this phenomena and can't wait for them. There's a clip that we have at the end of Watcher 7, right before the epilogue, where Bassett, and he's really on point. When you're doing interviews with people, there's a lot of dead space. You'll fill maybe 2 hours, and we'll use maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the most, 10 minutes, maybe that much, depending on what they're saying. People have a tendency to ramble and go on, thank you, and never make their point. But that's okay. I mean, it's just part of the interview process. And every now and then someone, Gary Stearman, by the way, comes on the record in Watcher 7, just articulate, clear, just hit it out of the park. I mean, we were just going, wow, what an interview. Bassett did the same thing. At the end, he sort of collected himself and he went, when E.T. shows up, it's going to be 24/7, 365, and he's right. I mean, I'm just boiling it down to the bottom line, and that's what he's saying. And he's right. When it happens, everything changes, and the church needs to understand this. And right now, the church, at the most part, the evangelical church doesn't. The Vatican is already, cozying up to the whole E.T. Savior. And our friend and colleague, Chris Putman, who comes in on Watcher 7, and he and Tom Horn's book, Exo Vaticana, demonstrate that. And that's a really well-researched, and if you don't have that book, get it. It's well worth the read. Something is happening. Then you get this guy, New Age's Benjamin Creme. When I first became a Christian 34 years ago, 1982, there were full-page ads in the LA Times, New York Times, London Times, and a major paper on the European continent. Some of you may remember it. It basically said, the Christ is now here. And the fifth Buddha and the Imam Mahdi and all this other stuff. And, you know, a lot of Christians, a lot of pastors went, whoa! And they addressed it from the pulpit. That doesn't really happen so much anymore. Have you noticed that? It's awfully quiet. A lot of time you just hear, and if you believe that God loves you, he will give you the money that you need for your mortgage right now by sending me, L.A. Marzulli, $1,000 seed faith offering. Right? And I call these guys and I go, do you realize that what you're doing? If Jesus were here and this was, he would take the whip and drive you out of a temple. It's unbelievable, the junk that's going on. That's not my Jesus, and I hope it's not your Jesus. It's an abomination. It is. It's an abomination. It has nothing to do with the good news at all. They are fleecing the flock. Where was I? So Benjamin Creme. Little bunny foo-foo. Thank you very much. So, praise you, Lord. So, in 1982, Creme comes out with this full-page ad. And, the Christ is now here. Listen to what he says, and this is fairly recent. The Space Brothers come to serve. You can't make this stuff up, folks, okay? You can't make it up. And when Creme shows up, the place is packed. I've seen pictures of him in Japan, standing room only. People are just like, that's delicious, Ben, tell me more. They are starved to hear the truth. And when are we going to learn that we can't go up to somebody and go, it says in Matthew 24. They don't know who Matthew is, and to them 24 is just a television show. Hello? We can't use Christianese. We got to stop it. I didn't know what Matthew 24 was at one time, and neither did you. Just tell them the good news without all the nonsense. Just tell them what's going on. Ancient prophetic texts warn us that in the last days this will happen. What ancient prophetic text is that, L.A.? Oh, just some ancient prophetic text I've been reading lately. Just let them go. Let them dangle for a while. They don't have to know it's the Bible. The moment you say Bible, it's like, whoa, Jesus freak, where do I get out of here, right? Seriously. Listen to what he says. Space Brothers come to serve. It is their nature to help. They make colossal sacrifices. In their thousands they have come, and they spend their time and energy helping us in every way. Where's that? They create vortices, which are visible as crop circles, to be sure, but also invisibly across the world in general. Now get what he says here, and watch the way he uses Christianese. Watch the way he uses it. The crop circles are only an outer tangential sign of their presence. If you have the eyes to see, this sign tells you that someone of tremendous intelligence, skill, tact, and reserve has touched the edges of our garment and said, we are here. You see what he's doing? See how pernicious that is? I love you, Ben, but this is not good. You are totally deceiving me, Ben. I know it. He is. He's deceiving us. He's mixing Christian terminology. Hem of the garment, right? Where's that from? Eyes to see? Who's he quoting? Because it's familiar to those of us in the church. Oh, yeah, it's far out. Benjamin Creme, Space Brothers, yeah. Space Brothers, man, I'm really spaced out, right? But unlike Bill Clinton, I was at Woodstock and I did inhale deeply. I am not proud of it. I can just see this, it'll be up on Facebook in the morning. L.A. Marzulli, ex-marijuana head, No, folks. Anyway, that's another lifetime. But the bottom line is, and what we need to understand, is that this guy's got a tremendous following. Not in the millions, but he's got a following. And people have been sucked in to his message. And now they believe. I've talked to these people. I've interviewed them. Some of the interviews are in the books that I write. I mean, it's unbelievable. And having come from a guru and being sucked into the New Age, I understand how easy it is, how tempting it is. Let's move on. The Ashtar Command. These guys always crack me up. The Ashtar Command is the Brotherhood of Light under the spiritual leadership of Prince Sananda, Jesus the Christ. Remember, it's not Jesus Messiah, Jesus the Messiah. They always the Christ, the Christic energy they call it. Totally New Age. It is composed of millions of spaceships and members of various cosmic civilizations. It is here to assist the planet Earth and its humanity in this cycle of cleansing and realignment. What do you think cleansing and realignment means? Guess who needs to be cleansed off the planet? That's right, all of us who believe in Jesus. Because we're holding back progress. Beep. I've interviewed her and I said, Blossom, how do you know that what you're channeling is benevolent? I always pray. Well, no, but Blossom, you're not supposed to open yourself up to these entities. But they seem to be good. Well, Blossom, trust me, you shouldn't be doing. I mean, I had this whole conversation with her. And she believes that these entities, are good. And yet on October 14th, when she did her whole deal, this was a number of years ago, she was told by them, she's channeling this information, which the guidebook of the supernatural, i.e. the Bible, tells us specifically not to do. It's like in black and white. Because who you're getting in contact with? The guys in the second heaven. Who are the guys in the second heaven? The fallen angels. Do they lie habitually? You bet. Who's the father of lies? You bet. You can't trust anything these guys say. That's why it's in the Bible for us not to do it for our own good. God's not being mean. Don't go channeling. Could be in trouble. No. He's doing it because if we do it, we're going to pick up stuff that we don't want in us and on us. And now we're either, partially possessed or at least demonized. She is demonized, in my opinion. Needs a lot of prayer. So this is what she wrote, or she channeled. Know of this, we come to assist your world. We do not come to take over. We do not come to destruct. We come to give you hope, Federation of Light. They were supposed to manifest in 2009, a large mile-wide craft somewhere in the hemisphere. She was all over YouTube. They told her channel, entities told her it was going to happen. She went out on a limb. Guess what? Nothing happened. And I said, Blossom, how did you feel? Did they lie to you? Well, I don't want to use the word lie, but I asked them over and over again, and they assured me it was going to happen. Didn't happen. They lie, and they do so habitually. Moving on. This guy cracks me up with this he's got like a uniform, and he's got a top knot, and, he comes out in this sort of Japanese deal. His name is Rael. It used to be Claude Vorlehorn. Look on the left-hand side. When they arrive, they will tell us, we are your creators. L.A. Marzulli, 2012. Rael, UFO contactee. This guy was an ex-race car driver, and he was out wandering around the mountains of France, and he had a UFO picked him up and told him he and Jesus were brothers. How convenient is that? And they had the same father, the Elohim. They always do two things. They always attack the work of the cross, and they attack his divinity. Always. Always. That's how you know. Oh, he really wasn't God. That's why when John says, did he come in the flesh? Why does that simple little statement, when we challenge how to test the spirits, why does it drive them bonkers? Because Yeshua, Jesus, coming in the flesh spells their doom, and they know it. And they don't like to answer that question. Intelligent design, message from the designers. Years ago, everybody knew that the earth was flat. Everybody knew that the sun revolved around the earth, and today everybody knows that life on earth is either the result of random evolution or the work of a supernatural God. Or is it? In Message from the Designers, Rael presents us with the vast amount of information that he received during his UFO encounters in 1973. A third option, all life on Earth having been created by advanced scientists from another world. You say, L.A., no one in their right mind would believe that. I don't have time to show you this, but there's a guy called Ben Stein on his movie Expelled, and he sits down with Richard Dawkins, and he says, Rich, where did life come from? And Dawkins says exactly this. Well, no one knows, but it could have happened this way. Millions of years ago in another galaxy far, far away, a race of extraterrestrials who themselves had to have risen to a very high state of evolution, so some sort of Darwinian means, created life, and then seeded it through the galaxy, and here we are. That's what these guys believe, and they call us crazy. Look, when Jesus is here, be healed, change, stop, be calm, water to wine, right? Eyes grow, ears, everything he does. Leprosy, boom, cellular molecular level healed. He's everywhere he goes. He demonstrates that he has authority over all the elements, including everything supernatural. He demonstrates it, and he's the only person ever on this planet who does that. Period. No, Buddha doesn't do it. Krishna, Muhammad, no one else does it. It's only Yeshua. And everywhere he walks, it's goodness, 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 goodness. It just flows out. Everything changes. The atmosphere changes. Maybe tomorrow night we'll get into this. I'm just kind of sowing seeds. Maybe we'll have a time where we'll just sit and wait on him. Wait on his Holy Spirit. People here need to be healed. Some people need a word. The Holy Spirit can move through his people. If he touches you on the shoulder, I guarantee it won't be about you. It'll be about him. So if it's about you, keep your mouth shut and don't say anything. But if it's about him, then say it to us. You know? I'm just saying, I don't know whether we're going to do it or not, but it'd be really cool. We got a lot of people here. And I think the Spirit of the Lord loves to just come in and just wash his people. Just give them rest. And we oftentimes in church settings don't do that. So maybe tomorrow night to close, maybe we'll have like 10 or 15 minutes of just kind of waiting on him corporately, you know, and just seeing what he wants to do. Maybe. We'll see what happens. Let's move on. Edward Billy Meyer, when I was 26 years old, he released this book called UFO Contact from the Pleiades. And this book changed my life. I mean, I was a musician. I playing a rock band all over Los Angeles. I wrote a song called Space Alliance. I went and saw Close Encounters like 50 times. I mean, I was totally on board with this stuff. I believed in it. With all my heart, I did. You know, this is it, man. And you know, it was interesting when I became a Christian years later, and my mentor, who died last August, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, where I got my honorary doctorate from, Dr. Thomas, his book, The Omega Conspiracy, talks about the Book of Enoch. And when I read the Book of Enoch, there was this character by the name of Semyaza. Now, this is 20 years ago, or 25 years ago now, actually, right? And there is no internet, and most people have no idea what the Book of Enoch is. So Edward Billy Meyer is in 1976, he's having contact with this being called Semyaza. Whoa! So now I'm a Christian, and I'm reading the Book of Enoch, and there's the same name, Semyaza. And I remember taking the Book of Enoch and the UFO Contact from the Pleiades by Edward Billy Meyer and showing it to Dr. I.D.E. Thomas. He went like this, and he dropped the books in his laps and just stared at me with his jaw on the ground. He was blown away. And so was I when I discovered that. Because it's either Edward Billy Meyer is you know, it's a hoax, and he found the Book of Enoch someplace, and he just took this name, or it's an interdimensional being from thousands of years ago, which is once again manifesting in our space-time continuum. And in your face saying, I am Semyaza. Listen to what some of these messages are from the Pleiadians. These are from the Pleiadians. The deliverance, it's really hard to follow this stuff. This is all channeled information. Another entity. The deliverance of a series of facts from history and past of Earth humans and his descent. I have no idea what that means. In order to reveal to the misleds, how all evil could come into existence and how humans elevated themselves to gods over races and people in order to capture these in an ideological religious spell out of what was God, and holy cults also formed, as well as a variety of religions. 2, inform the people on earth that there exists no heaven and no hell in the form religions believe in. 3, inform people on earth that in the whole universe there was only one single creation and not a creator God. Do you realize that this, and he's got a huge following worldwide. And his message that he is getting is absolutely antithetical to what we as Christians believe. We do believe in a heaven and a hell. We do believe in a creator God, a personal God, not some impersonal force. I keep looking over it, just like I just crack up. It's Uncle Si. That's a fact, Jack. Okay. The Vatican, Father Funes, the director of the Vatican Observatory, believes that the existence of aliens would not be a contradiction with the Vatican faith. This has created a bit of an uproar among the faithful, but Funes says that if ET exists, they are God's creatures. Chuck Missler gave a wonderful presentation at Colorado Springs, and he talked about that we might be living in a digital simulation. We keep hearing this over and over and over again, and it's repeated by different scientists, that we actually may be in some sort of a holographic universe, a digital simulation of a greater reality. And I mean, I don't pretend to understand particle physics. Physics. I don't have a clue as to really how that works. Missler talked about when you take something and you divide it in half and half and half and half and half. When you go down to, I think it's 10 to the minus 33, you should be able to do it again. The thing disappears. The object disappears. You can't go smaller than that. You know, the whole idea of particle physics, when you look at an object over here and, you know, the thing appears over here, it's really, really bizarre stuff. And it points to the fact that what if we're living in a digital simulation? What if we are? I don't understand how that would work, but that means that we may be alone in the universe. See how that works? And so, you know, he's talking about, Edward Billy Meyer is talking about, you know, thousands of galaxies and all this life here. When Doug touched on this earlier, when it talks about, you know, Father God rolling up the heavens like a scroll, I believe that that's literal. I do. I believe it's literal. And that points to some sort of a digital simulation, in my opinion. This is conjecture. But see the way that works? If we are in a digital simulation, then that makes sense, because when Yeshua comes in here, he knows how the game is played. He can control every aspect of it because he created the game in the first place. But life is not a game. It's very serious. And at some point, when this present age dispensation is over and we dwell with him, we will be like him. We will know him as we are known. Wonderful day. Eric von Daniken, he influenced me. This book, Chariots of the Gods. His books now are the centerpiece of the Ancient Alien series, which I was on season 1 and season 2. I refused to go on season 3 because they said, why do you want to have me on? All you do is edit me and make me sound like I'm saying something completely different than what I'm saying. So they wanted me to talk about Fatima and the Vatican. I said, yeah, let me see, 1.2 billion Christians, and you want me to get on here and badmouth everybody on national TV. Not going to happen. So the impetus for that became the Watchers series, and that's why we made Watchers. And now we're working on number 8. Von Daniken, for over 45 years, has pursued the theory which postulates that Earth might have been visited by extraterrestrials in the remote past. And what's interesting about this, we just had a recent convert to our side. And I won't tell you her name, but she was with us in Peru, and she'll come out of this. I'll wait till Watchers 8 comes out, because she gives her testimony on film to us, and we're going to include it in Watchers 8. And basically she said she was in the UFO camp for years. She was a field investigator, wrote manuals. This woman was like, on board with the phenomena, okay? And then she began to actually read some of my work, and it flipped her. I didn't flip her, he flipped her. You know what I mean? He flipped her paradigm, because truth is truth. And she says, L.A., all they have to do, instead of saying extraterrestrial, is say fallen angel, and the whole thing makes perfect sense. These ancient megalithic structures, which I'll talk about somewhat tomorrow. See, all this, it's like this. And in Watchers 8, we're going to bring what happened with the megalithic structures and the Nephilim and all this stuff to what's happening in modernity. They're like this. Everything intersects. It all is absolutely connected. And it's mind-boggling to see it connect. So where's the church? Satan comes with all signs, lying wonders. I say this with all due respect because I'm part of this church. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. Okay? Just watch this. Here, just scary music.
Amazing.
This guy puts these out every month. So, I mean, I could sit here and Watchers 7, we do a whole montage of just craft that Jaime Maussan just gave us. It's, I don't know, 10, 15 different shapes in the skies, whole flotillas coming over the classic silver disc, cigar shapes, these candy cane things. I mean, it's just bizarre. Flying humanoids. I mean, the phenomenon is just off the charts. And we show this in the beginning of Watchers 7 to just, hey, this stuff is real. But I want to show you guys this one. This is Turkey. And in Watchers 7, it sounds like I'm giving a plug, but all this is taken from Watchers 7. And I would, if you can't afford it, I'll just give you one, seriously. Because you need to show it, have a watchers party, bring a bunch of people over, get the popcorn out, and show them this video. Because it'll do the talking for you. It's like 83 minutes long. And I think when people see it, and again, we're not preaching at the end of it. We're not going, and if you don't believe in Jesus, we don't do that. We just lay out the evidence and then say that, these entities lie and lie habitually. But this is the best UFO footage I have ever seen. And I'll show it to you in just a second. But you'll see entities within the craft. And these are, of course, the gray entities that we have now been enculturated. When I started studying this stuff 25 years ago, no one knew what the grays were. Now, it's, they're in 7-Up commercials. We've been enculturated. You see where we are? You know, you go and little toys are everywhere with the grays. It's everywhere. 25 years ago, it wasn't there. Is something changing? Are we frogs being boiled in water? In my opinion, yeah. Watch this. This is in Turkey. This zooms up on the craft. And right there. What's happening here, these are the entities. We've actually, one of these, there was a man who took the film frame by frame, and so he was really able to examine very closely what was going on. There's a third entity which is zipping. You can see part of him right there. And this third entity is zipping around the other two. There's a figure on the table here that we are looking at an abduction. A human being is on the table, he's being abducted, and these two are standing over him, and the third one is doing stuff to him. We show this again in Watchers 7. Oh, let me go back. Sorry. Let me go to here. This film has been vetted and looked at by the Turkish government. Other people have looked at it. What you're looking at is what we're dealing with. It's not a hoax. It's been vetted. We vetted it. Roger vetted it. The Turkish government vetted it. I mean, it's been vetted. And what we're looking at is a classic. It's a gull shape, not a disc. It's more of a gull shape. And you'll see the entities. The hatch is down, and it's 2:19 in the morning. And this is actually, you can really see the third entity, 1, 2, and then the third one's there, and a human figure on the table. So let's watch a little more. And what's weird is the third entity is moving at hypersonic speed. And this gets into the whole space-time continuum stuff and how time displacement, it gets really, interdimensional stuff. I'm going long. I apologize. I'll try to speed up here, folks. I don't know if Donnie's going to come back on. All right, so you get the point, right? There's a good shot of the third one. So let's move on. In Watchers 1, we showed how Dr. Roger Lear is a world expert in the area of alien implants, having done removal surgeries on 17 different patients. His research uses hard science, electron microscope analysis, and spectrometry to learn what's inside these things and what they're made of. He continues to investigate, and the actual scientific results always go beyond high strangeness. We went back to... Okay, so the classic abduction, I'm going to show you some pictures. This came out of an operating theater, January 4th, 2014. The backstory of this is, this man was abducted at 5 years old. He was taken, and at first he fought them and he drove them away. The second time, he was taken right up through the ceiling. And he remembers going like this and all his clothes just just right up through the ceiling. You say, how is that possible, right? When the angel appears to Peter in the jail cell, how does the angel get through? He just appears, doesn't he? Then Peter's not sure he's awake or asleep. That's a classic abduction. I'm not saying Peter was abducted. I'm saying that the fallen angelic hosts have the same properties and powers as the good angels do. And so when they show up, the same kind of stuff happens. Peter's angel comes in, manipulates space-time, shuts everybody off, opens the jail cell. Peter's chains fall off, walks out. All the Roman guards are asleep. If you did that if you were a Roman soldier and did that, you fell on your sword the next morning. So something's going on. Then the doors open by themselves, these huge prison doors, right? They walk out, the angel disappears. Classic abduction, almost exactly the same thing. You're lying in bed, 3 little beings come up, next thing you know, you're being levitated, you go through the window. You can't go through the window, but you're going through the window. Is the window open? No, the window's shut. Do you open the window? No, I don't know. I'm repeating Dr. Jacobs' interview. No, I don't open the window. Does anyone open the window? No, I just go through the window. You can't do that. And then the dog is shut off, and the partner is shut off, and they find themselves, if it's a male, sperm is taken. If it's a female, ovum is taken. Sometimes, not all the time, implants are put in, and that's what I want to talk to you about. because we tracked this guy in Watchers 7 and then concluded it in Watchers 8. He came to us and said he had been abducted, and he told us a story. He was driving his motorcycle, and the pain was so excruciating in his leg that he literally ditched the bike. He couldn't hold on to the bike. He ditched the bike and rolled on the concrete, holding his knee and screaming, okay? It happened 2 or 3 times. He finally went, like, after the first time, he went and got it x-rayed, and this is the original x-ray showing the implant right here. This is hardcore science, okay? This is why we're on the trail, and this is what we do, because we're bringing, now it's out of the realm of hearsay, and I know this guy, and we've interviewed him, and I watched through the whole process. There's the implant right there, okay? So here's what we did. We did an x-ray, another x-ray, our own x-rays of the implant. Then we did a CAT scan of the implant. Found the implant. Then we took him and we did what's called a Gauss meter. A Gauss meter measures a magnetic field. So the Gauss meter, the implant was like right, well, this perfect little dot, like right there. That's where the implant was. And we know that from the x-rays. We can take the x-ray, put it over the patient's knee, and you can see where the implant is. The implant was like right there. Took a Gauss meter to it, 7.5 on the Gauss meter. Richard's camera, battery, fully charged, 10 points on the Gauss meter. Little thing the size of a pencil egg is putting out 7.5 Gauss. All right? This is really important because I'm going someplace, and you're the first audience I've told this to, other than people who go to the blog. So we also took him to a doctor who's going to perform a surgery. And this doctor had an ultrasound machine. And he took the x-ray, placed it over the person's knee, took a magic marker, went dink, that looks like where it was, put the gel on, made a couple of passes like this. Oh, there it is, and this is what he saw. That's the implant right there. Okay? Piece of cake. We scheduled the surgery for January 4th. We go back to the operating room. We have a monitor with about 15 people in another room that are watching the monitor. We've got witnesses. We've got 3 camera crews there. We've got the patient. We've got Dr. Roger Laird, Dr. Matriciana. Rick is shooting. I'm like, you'll see a picture of me. I'm like watching the whole thing. And an hour and a half goes by with the doctor holding the ultrasound wand and going over a strip of leg about that far, about 8 inches wide by 3 inches. Over and over and over and over and over again with the wand, and there's nothing there. We take the Gauss meter, there's nothing there. Take the stud finder, there's nothing there. It's like it's being hidden and it's being switched off. Now get this, and I'm not making this up, folks. This is frontline stuff. And I'm way over my head. I've never been, done one of these things. I have no idea. But we're prayed up. We're not like super spiritual. We're not praying and fasting, but we're prayed up, and I feel the little tap on my shoulder, pray and do it now, and pray out loud, okay? So the room is crowded. Richard and I are the only 2 Christians there. And I go, guys, I got to pray right now. I know this sounds really weird, but I'm going to pray, and I don't care. I'm just going to pray, okay? So, whatever, crazy kid, separation of church and state, thank you. No Santa Claus. And my prayer is like, it's not one of these long-winded things. Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus. It's not one of those. It's just, Father, I just ask if there's any force that's hiding this implant or blinding it in some way or messing with the machines, that you would repel it and reveal this thing and do it now. That was it. And I shut up. Okay? I swear to you, less than 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes, all of a sudden, there it is on the ultrasound. And the doctor freaks, and he takes his wand and looks at it, and he goes back and forth, puts it on the leg, off the leg, on the leg, off, did it about 10 times. Why is it working now? And what we realized, and I went to each of the participants, I went to Dr. Roger Lear and Steve Coburn, and of course Richard and I talked about it, and I said, what we witnessed, in my opinion, was we invoked a higher authority than the authority that was attempting to block the implant from us. And that was spiritual warfare 101. It really was. It was graphic spiritual warfare. We asked specifically that Father would reveal this thing to us, and he did. And he did it almost instantaneously. And for those who have eyes to see, literally, the moment was not lost on them. Dr. Lear told me later, I now realize there is a supernatural component to the phenomena. That's amazing. For him to admit that is absolutely astounding. So we went in and we found the implant. Any of you with a weak constitution, you don't want to look at this. There's scenes of the operating theater. But I want to show it to you because this is what we found. So we see the implant, and the doctor sees it, and he makes an incision in the patient's leg. And he takes a spreader, and he spreads the skin. And now the implant is coming out. That is the implant. That's Dr. Roger Lear. Yours truly and Dr. Roger Lear. And that's the implant. When we took it into the lab under a scanning electron microscope, that's down about, it's not really down that far, it's about 20,000 times. But we see these, in fact, I don't think it's even that far. I think it's much less than that. But see these little, like I call them ganglia, for lack of a better word. Oh, and by the way, when we took the implant in, it was encased in this like rubbery grayish substance. We had to pin the implant down, take a razor knife, and slice it open, and then the metallic object came out. I mean, who's ever doing this, whatever these things are, I believe, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, I believe that these implants are prototypes of the mark of the beast. I wrote about this in the Cosmic Chess Match. Doug Camp also wrote about that, the same type of thing from another slightly different way of getting there, but that's what he came up with, and that's what I think these things are. I think that they will mess with the genome, and they will change the genome. They will change your DNA, and I'll get into that more tomorrow. So the coming great deception. The end game is to create man in Satan's image. It is, and this being here, we'll talk about this tomorrow. I'm kind of whetting your appetite. I'm wrapping it up here, folks, another minute, and I will be done. That's the skull from Watara. And how many people have heard about the DNA evidence? Okay, some of you. DNA evidence was revealed, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, but I'll whet your appetite. I spoke of a geneticist. These samples were given to him 2 years ago, and preliminary results came back. Whatever this thing is, it's not human. There's no mitochondrial DNA in the bank which matches it. And of course, it went viral on the internet. Brian Forrester released it because it was his information. But Brian and I had talked about it prior to the release, and we also spoke of a geneticist. And this is the real stuff. It's exactly what I would expect to find, that there is an outside agency messing with the genome and creating hybrid beings which are not entirely human. This is a skull that we found in Paracas. It only has one parietal plate. What I mean by that is a normal human skull has a frontal plate, 2 parietals, and an occipital plate in the rear. There's usually a sagittal suture which separates the 2 parietal plates. This skull didn't have any. A lot of these skulls in Paracas are exactly the same way. We believe that they're not cradle headboarded. And the DNA evidence, the preliminary DNA evidence, seems to be pointing to an outside agency messing with the genome, creating a hybrid being which is not entirely human. Welcome to the world of the Nephilim. Welcome to the world of the Nephilim. And tomorrow we'll talk about that, and you'll see the way everything is connected. So in the meanwhile, I am on the trail. That was in Peru 3 weeks ago. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.